So it's been a couple of days, and I had this talk with Bill. It sounds like Bill doesn't want to use Pixitron. He's more interested in Unity. He's been working for a university, doing some Unity stuff, and he wants me to flip to Unity instead of him flip to what I'm doing. And I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time. I'm not against Unity. One of my good friends who I grew up with works for Unity. But it's just not something I'm going to be doing anytime soon. I'm moving at a good pace, and I only have so much time. I'm not going to throw away 80 hours of work, so Pixitron will continue. We're going to get a name for this game. I'm not going to reveal the name of the game until later, once we've started actually working on the game. But as you remember, we were working on Pixitron, Pixie game, and we were working on the backend. And the backend was a MySQL workbench and Nano in an editor, and it did a lot of cool stuff. I'm able to build a quick backend, and if you remember, there's a URL endpoint located at lostastronaut.com/pixigame/backend, where you could test out various features. And this will become equally important in the long run. But for now, we're not going to be working on the backend right away. I want to show you what I've been working on since. So I've got a local, it's actually git bash, and I've got npm and Electron all set up. And if I type npm start, you're going to see what I've been doing. So I've got this dev console up. I can close it. And you'll see here that I have a little login window that I've started. So there's play offline, which allows players to play even if they don't want to create an account. You can create an account, so this actually needs to be changed. We'll change that in a minute. It should say confirm. And that's for setting up a new account, but it starts off with login, and you just type in your username. But there's a couple of problems. One is that the keyboard doesn't work in this because it's been overridden. And so we need to bring back regular keyboard entry into the console, or rather the game engine window. And that's one barrier to getting all this going. So that's something we're going to work on briefly. I'm not going to spend too much time in the videos these days. I think a little shorter is in order as I build the game. Whoa. Well, look here. I guess I've sort of revealed the name of the game, but I'm not going to say it. You'll have to look real close. Anyway, as we get out of this part of the scenario, we have to build out all of the things that are going to happen, but I'm going to talk a little bit about how I made this dialog window and how it popped up in front of the Pixie.js before we fix any of these things. So today's video is going to deal mainly with that, and then I'm going to go on and fix the problems that you see here. So at this point, we're using jQuery UI to create this dialog. Hold on one second. I'm just going to bring up Atom. And you'll see here that we've got Atom loaded with Pixitron starter with a few changes. And I'm just going to go through the code with you here. So the first thing that I encountered was an issue with jQuery. So I put a version of jQuery in, well, firstly I went to the theme roller and I created the theme for jQuery UI. And if you're not familiar with that step, you can type in jQuery UI, and it's going to come up with a bunch of links for you. And one of the links is jQuery UI builder, And theme roller builder lets you choose yes and no, and it's actually the thing that happens to you as you exit the theme roller. So let me find the theme roller. Custom, yeah. So custom, this is the download builder. Like I said, it comes out of that. But you go to themes, and now you're in the theme roller. And what the theme roller does, and again, this is jQueryui.com. What the theme roller does is it lets you customize this, and I actually just picked one out of the gallery and then modified it. You can click the edit button if you like one. For instance, Le Frog, you can click edit, and now you're editing it in the theme roller and making changes. You don't click edit. If you just click it, it will load it, but then when you go to change it, in any way, it sometimes reverts back. Well, didn't do that this time. Let me try changing color. There's a little bug that I find kind of annoying, and that's sometimes when you click this, it shouldn't leave right away, because you want to do two things in this. You want to do the hue, and you also want to do the color, and so it's kind of annoying. But once you get through all of that and you've made it look the way you want it to, you get all of these icons and all that stuff. And of course, you can use other things. A couple of other things I recommend are FontAwesome. So FontAwesome comes with a whole bunch of icons that you can use, and if you don't have to buy it. It talks about buying something, but you don't have to buy anything. And the other thing is Foundation Icons, and Foundation Icons 3, and there's other versions, have a lot of useful little, just symbols that you might want to use, like folder add and all that stuff. And then there are probably other icon fonts out there that you could use, but these are just really easy to use because you can recall just the single icon if you want, simply by using a CSS class. But there's some stuff in there that, like the badge thing and the paw. I mean, some of this stuff could give you ideas for games. You can get lost in it. There's just so many of them. And there's a couple of other, fast forward, play, rewind, photo, all that stuff. So useful, great for making apps, torso, male, female. You can imagine what you would use those for in video games. And they can be scaled. So if I were to say pick torso female, I could use the big one to show it's male or female. And I think there's actually other ways to show sex if you're choosing like a sex or gender. And there's other symbols. So you have a lot of options here, and who knows what you'll use them for. So those recommendations, these are CSS libraries. They can go along with jQuery and other things. You don't have to use jQuery with Pixitron. You can use Angular. You can use whatever, React. I just use jQuery because it's easy for me, having started with jQuery. But if there's something else that you like, go for it. I've used some other stuff. Vue comes to mind. There's also Processing.js, and I may use some of these later on. So the name of the game, I'll just tell you, is Fireball. And we've already got that name on Steam, so we're ready to tease that and to get that released someday. So it's going to be an experience where you can play offline. And there's actually a way to use the Steam API within Electron to, query a user's information. So we might get to that at some point. There's ways to wrap DLLs, and there's just all sorts of nifty stuff you can do by being in JavaScript. Engines like this are really, really, like the potential is never fully tapped, and you never know where you can go. But things like Unity, you have to sign a very long legal agreement. And hey, if you want to do that stuff, go right ahead, if that's your prerogative. But for me, I'm good. I have something here that says I can sell it, so why would I want to go beyond that? So, and plus it's tried and true. You've got jQuery, tens of thousands of people have contributed to jQuery. Tens of thousands of people have contributed to web technologies. And I think, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions, So you're benefiting off of having a massive resource, much bigger than one company can deliver to you. On the other hand, you don't get all of that game-specific stuff necessarily. So I get it, but for what we're doing, I think this is going to be great. And I have some neat ideas that we'll go over once we get to the game development phase, when I start to draw pictures, which should be coming in an upcoming video once we get done with the login sequence. I'm going to draw a picture of the proposed engine, and it's going to be not unlike certain other engines. In fact, I do want to show you one teaser if I can find it really quickly. Yeah, so this is the get it in a browser. By the way, if you want, I'm going to put in the links below the Discord channel for Retrofriends. You can come and visit. But here we have kind of a game engine concept that utilizes Sprite Stacking to create the illusion of 3D. Now there's some little artifacts in there that you can kind of see, and it's based on Magica voxel exports, which can then be converted into a ping strip, which can then be used. And there's a way to do this in Pixie. One guy has a video about it on YouTube right now, but he doesn't actually reveal the engine or give you source code that's useful. He does reveal some things, but essentially what we're going to do is create a, and that was it for the video, by the way. We're going to create an engine similar to that, maybe. So that's just a teaser. We'll see what actually works out. I have some other ideas. I want to maybe do some height mapping on the ground and stuff, and I just have some cool ideas that I want to explore in a more retro sort of lo-fi gaming experience. So let's see. So what has changed from last time? If you downloaded Pixitron, it looks very similar to what was here, except that I've included jQuery. And by doing just a little bit of Electron research, I was able to come up with this line. You have to do this window.$ equals window.jQuery equals module.exports. And this is the only way to get jQuery to properly load. So this worked. And then I was able to, without using that line, include that with jQuery UI, and you have to do the CSS or jQuery UI prior to doing jQuery. I believe it's so that jQuery can detect its presence. And that's all the includes that we've added, although we will be adding some more later. And then we just kind of have our normal, stuff, the renderer and creating the window. Then in here we have our ready function, and for some reason in Electron you cannot use $document ready. .ready, you have to do it this way, so $function and then some information. And I've noticed that stuff in a couple of places other than just in Electron, mainly in the Chromium embedded frameworks and other applications I work on, some professionally, some not. So you have to do it this way. I'm not really sure why, but if you do it this way, it works. What we're doing here is we're creating a dialog out of a div, and then we're giving it an onClose function window close. And I'm just going to show you that doesn't seem to work, but let's see if it does. It doesn't work. And yet there's no reason that shouldn't work. I still have to hit escape. And when I hit escape, it actually triggers window.close. So I'm not really sure why that doesn't work. But I have a couple of ideas, and let me just try one of them, because I'm just going to try this real quick. And in engine here, you'll see escape quit window close. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a function. Well, not there. Let's go up to the top here, and we're going to go with function close the game window, and inside of this we're going to call. Now we know that we have a global engine, so I'm actually going to put this function down near where I create the global engine. So let me bop down here to the bottom, and you see engine equals new engine. Down in here we're going to go engine.window.close, and that should do it. Let's find out. So getting out of Atom for a second, we've got our local copy here, and we're just going to run it again, and there it is. And it looks like something messed up. Close the game window is not defined. Well, that's interesting. So wait a minute. Close the game window is not defined. Oh, well, let's take a look at that. Why would that be? Well, first of all, we're calling it as a function. We really should be passing it as a variable. So let's see if that fixes the problem. Oh, that's not working. Well, let's see. So this is where it's different, right? So things are different in Node.js than they are in a browser. Everything in that web page that you were viewing a second ago is in the web page, but then it uses the require command, and you would think that function close the game window would exist, but it only exists if you export it. And exporting a function like this is from a module, so you have to actually export the engine as a module. What we're going to do instead, I think, is we're going to take this and we're just going to export engine. Let's take a look here. Right. So I think what we're going to do is go into renderer. So we have to kind of tie these things together. We want that function to be there. We don't need it to be that function. But the thing is that why don't we have the window at this stage? I mean, the window is here. Why does window.close not work? So, well, let's create, well, maybe onClose isn't working. Let's find out. And the way we're going to find out is we're going to create a button here. So, so we know that close may or may not work for Dialog. On Dialog close. I see. Dialog close. So now this should allow us to see, and I'll just leave that in there for now because that's going to become my login function. So real easy to get pages to show and things like that. And you can split this thing up into multiple pages. You don't have to load index. If you go to main.js of Pixitron, you'll scan through it and you'll see it says create window is a function, and it creates the browser window at a small size of 800 by 600. So this is the minimum size for the window. And then down here it says main window load URL, URL format, path name, and then this whole block just tells it to go right in there and pick up index. So this is going to allow us to load the index file, and then from the index file we could go to other local pages and such, or we could load them via Ajax into a piece of the screen, a dialog or whatever. Let's just make sure that this works now that I believe it does work. So npm start, and then close. Oh, now we can exit the game without having to hit escape. And in fact, that's a good thing. So we want to go back to engine and we want to look for escape. Well, where was that? That was in interface or something. Or, Right. So here we have all the keyboard stuff. Now, one of the things that I want to mention, so prevent default, that's what's stopping the keyboard. And we actually want this a lot of the time. But we don't want it all the time. We want it when, and this is the down and up handler, right? And if you have a down then an up, that's a click or a press. But the problem is that we need to route this stuff only when we're ready. And in fact, as it turns out, we need to do an on blur and an on focus every time we click a text box, an input text box. So I think I can fix this rather quickly, and this will wrap up the video. So let me bump up to the top, and let me just go bar keyboard captured equals false. And now we've never captured the keyboard, so that should stop. It should work. Yeah, it should work. So let's go ahead and see if it works out. So how do we do that? We go down here, we pick up my bash shell and we run npm start. Oh. Unexpected identifier. All right, well, there's something horribly wrong. By the way, when something like that happens, you have to use Alt F4. So does that work? Well, it's not part of this class. What if I go up here because we have that update mouse pause? So now what happens? Well, maybe the problem's in a different file as well. Nope. All right. So this, still not, can't. So somewhere, oh, it's still working. It didn't matter. Well, for one, I didn't put them in both places. I also changed. Did I change the name? No. All right, let's see if this helps. And maybe. Yeah, no. Okay, this worked. All right, we got it going. So it ended up being just me. I didn't put it in the right place. But I mean, it's hard to know like what is this at that moment and where are we and are we in a so in other IDEs there are ways to tell what object you're in. In this IDE, it does sort of that's my help find. It doesn't. I don't know where I am. It doesn't tell me what my global scope is or my current local scope. So that's a big concern. We want to think about what that means. Looks like there's some updates to this. But regardless of that, that should do it. Now, I haven't tested that it still works, but obviously that's something where every time you enter or exit an input tag, you're going to want to have it capture and release the game keyboard. All right. So that makes sense. And that should solve that problem. Well, listen, thanks for watching. I hope you're following along. I hope you're learning something. Even if you're not actually downloading this stuff and working on it, I'm going to keep doing this. You're going to learn something. I do every time I get involved. And the game is going to be a turn-based strategy. It's based on the Pixie.js and Electron.js frameworks, one being for graphics, the other being for cross-platform applications, Windows, Mac, and PC. This is going to be an online multiplayer game. We have a backend written in a custom framework that I myself created and have used. And yeah, who knows what's going to happen next. I think we're probably going to build out the login button so that it actually works. And we're probably going to, at that point, have some sort of new character creation screen or game start screen. So once I've gotten a little bit further along, we'll get back together and you'll be able to see the game start screen, the game, character editor preparation screen, whatever you want to call it. But maybe before we even get to that, we should draw some wireframes. So I'll do the login part and then we'll do some wireframing. So, just thinking to myself about what happens next. We're going to get to it. Sounds good. Take care, and we'll talk soon. Keep it retro, friends.